Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 23rd episode of Kouryer podcast. Today, I'm joined with Inka Schulz. She's a concept artist from Redmond, USA, mostly working on fantasy genre. With that out of the way, please give us a little introduction on how you got into visual arts and design.
Sure. Hello. Thank you for having me here. I work mainly in the fantasy genre. I do concept art mostly, a little bit of illustration as well. The way that I got into what I do is I wanted to do some kind of creative work ever since I was in high school. And I remember the thing that got me going into specifically concept art was when the Elder Scrolls Skyrim came out and I got the art book. And I remember being so fascinated by everything that was in it and just thinking, I was maybe, I was really young. So I was just thinking like, wow, I really want to do this. Like, I didn't know this was even a job or a career because at the time I thought that, being an artist was, you paint with oil paint in your room and that's it. So that's kind of when I found out that there's way more that you can do in the art field. So that's kind of what got me thinking about just starting to practice and getting better and getting into concept art. And I started looking up a lot of resources online and looking up things like I found Feng Zhu online. He's a really prolific concept artist as well, and he has his own school. So he has a lot of really cool resources on YouTube that I got into from a young age. And it kind of went from there. And then I went to an art school. I went to Ringling College of Art and Design down in Florida. And from there, it just kind of took off. And now I'm up here in Redmond and doing freelance work.
All right, so you told us already that you kind of got in contact with concept art when you got the Skyrim art book when you were young. And I actually want to know, like, were you originally studying art and design or you were pursuing another career path?
Funnily enough, I think one of my first classes I took during high school, which I thought was going to be my career, was we had veterinary classes. So originally I was planning to potentially become a veterinarian because I've always really loved animals and medicine. So that was something I was really interested in up until I found out about concept art. And then I was completely mesmerized by it. And I knew that that was the career path for me.
All right, and what is your main branch of design that you're focusing on? You already told us that you're focusing on concept art, and basically tell us about your experience from the start of it until now, and what made you interested pretty much in this, branch of design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I've always been somebody who loves to tell stories, whether that's through writing or visually. And so I think for me, what I really loved about designing and being a concept artist is, the actual act of designing itself. And sometimes it doesn't really matter what it is. It could be like making a cool box or making really cool clothes. Costume design has been something I've really always loved, and being able to tell a story with the things that I design is definitely my favorite part about the job. Because it's always really interesting to see how people react to it and to see kind of what kind of stories they get from the work that I do. So the storytelling aspect of being able to design something that makes others think about it or ask questions about it is definitely the part of it that I really like the most. And that makes me just really love being a designer at heart.
And with that out of the way, I got another question about your start. Did you start off by traditional art, then transition into digital, or you went to digital from the get-go? And how was the process of transitioning, if you did?
So when I was in high school and I started thinking about doing more art-related careers, I started off traditionally. So I remember I had some art classes and it was very basic, it was studying oil painting. And so I started with that and I did a lot of traditional oil painting in high school. But I think that actually was really helpful for me in being able to transition into digital because while digital, of course, is different in the way that you obviously have to learn a program and learn how to use it and how it works. I think, the fundamentals are still the same, and it kind of aided in me being able to do the kind of rendering style that I like, and it kind of transitioned pretty smoothly for me. So it was really just a matter of learning how the program works and learning the different functions of Photoshop. But yeah, I definitely did a lot of traditional work before, and I kind of went into watercolor a bit too. There were some required traditional classes at Ringling College that they start you on, and then you kind of transition more into the digital realm later. So that's kind of the path I went down, and it was overall quite smooth. And it's it's nice because now I can kind of do digital for my professional work, and then if I have free time, I'm able to kind of do some watercolor for myself for fun, which is still very enjoyable.
Awesome. And too bad the podcast is only audio only, because if it was like, video call as well, I would have asked you to show us the cat because I can hear it in the background.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he really wants to hang out with us.
Oh, that's cute. And how does your design process usually go, and design for anything?
So it kind of depends on what the subject matter is, of course. But again, it all kind of for me goes back to the storytelling aspect, and I first try to break down what it is that I'm designing. So, for example, if it's a character, I tend to daydream a lot, which is a process that really works for me personally, just because that's the kind of person I am. So, for me, it's really really easy to kind of start imagining what it is I'm designing in the world that it's supposed to live in, and seeing it kind of interact with things around it in my head helps me to kind of see what it would look like, what kind of personality it has, and how I want to portray it. So another thing that works really well for me is once I start kind of thinking about what it is, I write down a couple of keywords. So, for example, I write down maybe 4 or 5 words on the file that I'm working on, and I say like, okay, this person's physically very strong. This person, they get angry really easily. So I write down the keywords that I know I want to show in the design and that I want people to see and understand, oh, this person looks like they could lift something really heavy, and this person is clearly like an alchemist or something like that. So I kind of break it down into very basic words, and I think that's a really good way to start a design, is to think of it in the most simple way you can. Think about the archetype is another really important thing. So, you have a lot of traditional archetypes like the hero character, the cowboy character, things like that can really help you break it down. And then you can start kind of twisting it and massaging it a little bit into something else and designing from there. So that's kind of the process that I go into, is really breaking it down super simple from the beginning, and then I start to add things to it and imagine it in my head and feel it interacting with other things, and thinking of the stories of what it is while I'm drawing it, because then I might think of new things to add to it and how I want it to read to the viewer, because I really want to be able to tell that story that I have in my head. Yeah. So that's kind of the path I go down. Sometimes I also do a little bit of reference gathering for more of a mood board. So looking at different like fabrics and patterns, and sometimes researching cultures and different things that I want to pull from, that I want to add to it, that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And the next question is, how do you see the future of concept art in general? Do you think the professional will become another skill that an artist in a team should have, or it will become more specific? Like there will be concept artists for each subject, like of course there already is, but what are your thoughts about it? What I mean by that is like, when there's like in a 3D modeling team, there's one guy for modeling the vegetations, one guy to model the weapons, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, concept art will become more like subject specific, or how do you think it will go?
Yeah, I would say definitely, it already kind of is very subject specific in some cases, especially if you have a really big project where you need a lot of people. It starts to become very specific. So, while there are cases where, companies would want to hire more of a generalist that could kind of tackle everything. I definitely see a lot of cases already where they're very specific about the type of people they hire, and being able to say, like, okay, we want somebody who is really good at hard surface designs. We want someone who's really good at weapon designs or creature designs, things like that. So I think that this profession definitely has a lot of room to grow, and I think it is growing because of the just amount of online resources that you have going around, that it's becoming a much more kind of seen career path, I think. Because before, I think it wasn't quite as visible online when things were mostly in the art books. But now you have, ArtStation, and you have all of these resources and places online where people can share their art, that I think as it grows, it's just going to become more specific, because I think there's going to be more and more designers out there, and more potential for people to specialize if that's what they would like to do. So I definitely see that being a thing, especially with the amount of projects you have coming out and the amount of people that are needed.
All right. And what technologies and softwares do you mostly use for your concept arts? I mean, what model of tablet? What softwares? All that.
Yeah. So for my software that I use, I pretty much exclusively use Photoshop CC. Right now I'm on the 2020 version. So that's what I use pretty much all the time, because Photoshop has always kind of had all the features that I like and want, and it works really, really well, and the amount of brush settings you can get is just really great. So that's definitely my preferred software. As far as everything else goes, right now I'm using an XP pen. I believe the model, I think it's called SE23. I'm not quite sure what the exact model number was, but it's something like that. And it's more of a temporary tablet, because it's definitely one of the more affordable ones. But the ones that I like to use are definitely more of the like screen tablets, something like a Cintiq. But those can get pretty pricey. So yeah.
All right. And in your opinion, how to get noticed by other studios, and how to present your portfolio and your resume as an artist, and also this, and kind of like another sub question to this question is, what tips and advice you have for artists about their resume and portfolios?
Yeah. So I'm gonna start with the resume, just because it's definitely, in a way, it's important to show, your experience and where you've been and where you've worked, because companies will definitely want to see that. But at the end of the day, your work and your portfolio is going to be the most important thing, because companies will spend a lot less time looking at your resume in this field than they do looking at your portfolio. So I would definitely prioritize portfolio. So I wouldn't worry, too much about making your resume like super pretty or super, out there. So keep it simple. Show what you've worked on. Obviously show who you've worked with, and whoever that you think you want to present to your client. Like, hey, I've worked on this project, and it's really good for them to see that somebody has worked on a project for a consistent amount of time, to show that you're able to work on a project for a certain amount of time, that you might be able to stick with them. So it's obviously good to show that, but honestly, the most important thing is, it just comes back to you having good work and having a solid portfolio. That's going to be the number one thing in getting people to reach out to you and to notice you, and kind of goes hand in hand with posting your art online, and especially something like ArtStation. These days, most of the people that have reached out to me have been through ArtStation. So I'd say that's a really good resource and a really good place to kind of post your portfolio, and just kind of being visible, and continue to work on your art and work on your portfolio. And if you have good work and really solid work, people will notice you and people will reach out to you. And that kind of goes with also like talking to people and knowing people in the industry, because it's not really a huge industry right now. So everybody sort of knows each other, and it starts to get, it becomes this very connected social network almost. Of all of these people knowing each other. So if somebody knows you and know that you work well with people and that you're, able to communicate well and have good work, then they might recommend you to somebody at a company or reach out to somebody. And so a lot of work honestly comes down to connections and being visible online. And that goes for almost every job I've gotten. So I think that to me is the most important thing is communicating, reaching out to people, building a really good network of people that you can talk to and communicate with, and kind of help each other out and get to know people and show them that you have really good work, and just continue working hard, continue to improve your portfolio and make really solid work.
All right. Actually, that was in a sense, what the answer you just said kind of applies to everything. And what I mean by that is, if you just focus on your craft and skill, and you just, and it's obvious when someone does something out of their ego, who just, they want to, learn something to be confident. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but the good things, that like kind of miracles in your work happen if it's, if what their journey you're on is out of passion,
Yeah.
And when that happens, it's not the universe working or something. No, it's nothing like that. It's just that you're getting in the way of people with the same mindset as you.
Yeah.
And initially, it will, of course, boost your progress. That's just in a simple sense how it is.
Absolutely.
And with that out of the way, actually, I want to talk a little bit more about your works. I'm actually going to say something. Your profile picture is actually one of your works called Goblin Queen, right?
Yes.
And actually, that's one of my favorite ones. I actually literally 15 minutes before the podcast, I made it my background picture of my phone.
Oh, thank you.
Because here's the thing. Not just that, like, here's the thing that really gets to my eye, and it's really, I think makes your works really, aesthetically good looking, is the color compositions and lightings. These two mixed together are just perfect, in my opinion. And actually, I saw this piece on your ArtStation, I think, called Altwelt, if I'm not
Yes, Altwelt. Yes.
Could you please talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So Altwelt was my thesis project for graduating from Ringling College, and it was kind of what I worked on for almost the whole school year for the senior year, and that was kind of the final sort of project that was asked by the school to work on, and we were allowed to kind of come up with whatever it is that we felt we wanted in our portfolio, or the kind of project that we wanted to work on for our career path. So I wanted to branch into doing a world building project and making a set of characters that would fit into this world together, perhaps like a narrative game or something like that. So that's kind of what I started working on for the final, and I had to structure it as a book because that was required by the school. So it ended up being kind of like the art book, or the art of book, that I imagined for this theoretical game, if it was a narrative game. I spent most of the spring semester of that year, this was last year, to kind of finalize and refine this project and sort of make these characters and write the stories about them and how they might interact together. And it ended up becoming a little mini world building project for that semester. And it kind of ended my year at college. And that definitely doing that kind of project and doing the type of work that I personally loved is what ended up getting me a job out of college. So it went well.
Yeah, of course it did. And the thing that I really, really like about the Altwelt characters is that, like, I actually can imagine them in a video game. Like, they're also... I mean, I'm just going to say I like them. I think they're cool in the most basic way I could express it. And you said you're in Redmond, like in Washington State, right?
Yes.
So actually, Oregon, Washington, Montana, those are basically northwest of America is my like favorite place in the whole country. And I think now the reason I say that is because there's also another work called Waypoint Over the Moors, and the nature really resembles the nature of that area. Did the nature like in your area inspire you in your works?
Sort of. I mean, it kind of goes back to this project. I heavily based it on a lot of things from Germany, from my home, and the kind of climate is a bit similar in some areas as here in Washington. So in a way, it is very similar, and it's definitely something that inspired me for the project. And I tried to pull a lot of things from Germany into the project I was working on. And the title also is Altwelt, is German, and it means like old world, essentially. Yeah, and so, yeah, it definitely kind of goes back to the type of nature and the type of area I was raised in personally. I was in the Alps where I was raised, so very mountainous, very green, lots of woods, and a lot of the design work I do, I think, does kind of go back to Germany itself, and a lot of the things that I saw that I grew up with. So, yeah.
All right, now let's move on to the next question. Who are your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
There's a lot. I think one of the people that I was exposed to, a few years ago was Jesper Eising. He's a Magic: The Gathering card illustrator, and he does really beautiful painterly work that I've always really liked. And he's also just like a really fun guy. I got to meet him once at Lightbox, and he demolished me in a Magic game, so that was great. But I really like him, and I also really liked Evan Amundsen. He's another really great artist who I had the pleasure of doing a mentorship with. So he's really awesome as well, and I really look up to him and the way that he kind of thinks about design. So those two would probably be, two of my favorite artists. There's so many, there's such a large group of artists out there that inspire me all the time. I think, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, of course I was looking up to Feng Zhu because it's one of the first people that I found out about when I was starting to look into concept art. So I think early on I was kind of inspired by Feng Zhu's work. And then I kind of found out more about, whoa, there's like so many artists out there and so many concept artists, and ArtStation has been really like great for finding all of these really, really talented people that inspire me all the time, because there's just too many to count. There's so many.
All right, and what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? What kind of project is it? Of course, if it's something that there's an NDA involved, you can't talk about, it's fine. But if that's not the case.
Yeah, they're pretty much all pretty NDA. But I can say that I'm working freelance right now for a few companies. I'm working with Volta, I'm working with Wizards of the Coast, and I'm working with Darrington Press, who do Critical Role tabletop games. I think the Darrington Press one has already been announced in their timeline on an article they posted, so I'm working on one of the tabletop games for them. And for Wizards of the Coast, I can't really say exactly what it is, but I got to help design some of the characters for some upcoming sets. So that's been really fun, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Awesome. And what area beside the area you're working on right now are you interested to explore and learn? And what I mean by that, hypothetically, imagine right now you got a text message and $1 million was deposited into your bank account, all right? And well, what that would entail is that you wouldn't have to worry about bills and other stuff anymore. So that would make you have a lot of free time, all right? And in that free time, what skill would you pursue?
Honestly, I mean, I think I would continue to work on my design skills. I would probably do another world building project similar to my thesis project Untitled, and probably spend a lot of time to work on my own project and be able to really flesh out an idea over a long period of time, especially if I didn't have to worry about bills. I would love to be able to do my own sort of IP/project for a world building project, because that's something I really love, and I want to get a chance to kind of be able to design something of my own world one day again, because that's always really enjoyable. Other than that, I mean, if we're not talking just about art things, I really like gardening, so I would probably maybe take some botanical classes and learn a little bit more about gardens and plants and botanicals. Yeah, I think those are the main things. I would continue working on definitely designing, because that's just what I love to do, and definitely doing like a really big world building project would be super fun, especially if it was something that I worked on with like a group of people or something. I've always wanted to do like a game project or something with a group of friends, because I think that would be super enjoyable.
All right, that surely sounds like really fun, to be honest.
Yeah.
And well, with everything that's been said and done, to conclude all we discussed, could you give us a roadmap for someone who is zero in visual arts and design and wants to get to the place you are in terms of skill set, which is, of course, a skill set in concept art, like where to start, best tools, softwares, books, courses, anything, like a step by step? Could you give us a roadmap for that?
Yeah, sure. So, of course, it depends, per person, but I think in general, everything that you need to learn, there's so many resources online. So, I would say if I had known about all of those, that's where I would have started personally when I was younger. But yeah, I would say, and looking into different schools that are online that are specialized to concept art. So, you have the Brainstorm Academy, you have the Workshop Academy, which is based in Washington. And those are, really good tools for finding specialized courses that are going to be also way more affordable compared to something like university that will be a bit less specialized. So I would definitely encourage people who want to learn to, if they can, to look into something like that, because then you get a one-on-one with a teacher, and there's a lot of, teachers out there that are still in the field, which is the great thing about these workshop academy places and the Brainstorm Academy as well, is that almost all the instructors are, still working in the industry. And so you get a lot of the questions answered that you might have about industry questions, and they can help you kind of get started. So I would really encourage that. I would, of course, encourage fundamentals. Learn the basics first. Try not to get too wrapped up in specialization early. Try to focus more on, getting really good at anatomy and continue to practice that. I'm still practicing it as well and doing, gesture studies and things. So always keep practicing anatomy. Do perspective work. Perspective is going to be super important. And do different light studies, get different books on light. James Gurney has a really good book on light and color that I really recommend people to look into. And all of this is really, really important to get down early, because you don't want to have to be thinking about this later on. So definitely start off with fundamentals. Sign up for classes if you can. Those online workshops are really, really great. And I think people could really benefit from that, especially if you can kind of map out for yourself the kind of work that you want to do through those classes. And then from there, it's just a matter of you got to keep practicing and kind of find what you're passionate about. Something really important that I want people to know is, make sure you work on what you're passionate about. Do the kind of work that you would want to do, for when you want to work. Because if you do really good work, somebody will hire you for it. Somewhere, something, some company is going to look at your work and say like, oh, this is the kind of thing we need. And, you want to be working on that thing that you really love and that you're really passionate about. So if you really love drawing swords or designing swords, go for it. Become like ridiculously good at designing swords, because somebody's going to need you, and then you're going to love what you do. And so I really encourage people to do what they love, stick to the fundamentals, especially in the beginning if you're just starting out. Get some books on anatomy, get James Gurney books for color and light, look up the classes, and kind of go from there. And then it'll just kind of become more of a process of getting to know yourself and getting to know the kind of work that you like to do. And then just, work at it, work hard, and kind of expand your visual library as well. Look at different cultures, look at different books. Obviously right now we can't travel, but once things level out a little bit, travel is another really big thing that can expand your visual library. So you have a larger library to pull from for visual references in your mind. So hopefully that's helpful.
Like, goddamn, I'm actually inspired to open up Photoshop and just try to open a course and just practice. Like, honestly,
that's great to hear.
Honestly, yes. that was a pretty good answer. Like,
thank you.
Like, well done. And well, I mean, that was it. That was for this episode, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. And where can people contact you if they had any question? Of course, I'm gonna put your Instagram profile in the captions and everything. But in case, is that's good?
Yeah, that's good. I definitely say Instagram is a good place. And then, I'm always open. Also, if people want to email me, my email's on my Instagram account too. So, totally open for that. If somebody wants to send me questions, or ArtStation, same thing. And if you just look up Inka Schulz or Inka Sprout, you'll find me online. So any social media platform you can find me on, like Instagram or ArtStation, feel free to message me there. I'm always open for questions. I really want to, help people out as much as I can, and be there for people. And I'll be starting out Twitch streaming soon. So I'll be posting about that on Instagram too. So you can start finding me on Twitch and then asking questions on there as well.
Awesome. Well, have a good day, everyone. Bye. See you next episode.
Thank you.